Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk. Thanks for tuning in. So this is our Tuesday night live. We're streaming on both YouTube as well as Facebook. So I want to thank everyone for joining. Let your friends know, let your family know, have them come join us for this discussion. A lot to talk about this evening. Some breaking news, nothing too big, but some motion dates were set in the Chad Daybell matter. We'll talk about that first. Then obviously the Breonna Taylor matter out of Louisville, Kentucky. You know, the city writing a big check, just like I anticipated they would, because that's what happens when you kill people. And you weren't justified in doing it. You write big checks. Even if officers aren't charged, people get big checks written to them. And after a certain point, citizens, you would think, would start to get upset by what's going on. And there's, you know, obviously lots of things going on in the true crime world and just law, you know, going on these days. We had our video up today. You know, it's you know, the Letecia Stauch case. We can also talk about that as well. So for those of you who do not know, my name is Scott Reisch. We started this channel about 2 years ago, and it was really out of frustration based upon what you see on the evening news, which was people, for lack of a better term, reading something and really knowing that they had no idea what they were really talking about. Now, I don't profess to have all the answers, but after practicing criminal defense for 25 years, I think I have a pretty good idea procedurally what's going on, tactically, what people would be doing, and being able to explain that. So that was the whole purpose of starting this channel, is to be able to explain the criminal justice system and process to people better than what you were going to see on the evening news, where somebody has 30 seconds to explain what happens. And like I said, they don't know the difference between an arraignment and a preliminary hearing and what that really means in the whole process. So that's why we did it. We've had great success. We just went over 135,000 subscribers. Now, I know there's obviously lots of channels out there that are, you know, well into the millions or hundreds of thousands. And yes, we're catching them. We'll catch up with them soon. Do not worry, do not fret. But a statistic was given to me the other day that I did not realize, that if you have a channel with over 100,000 subscribers, you are actually in the 1%, the top 1% of all YouTube channels. So thank goodness lots of people have YouTube channels that don't do anything with it other than tune into other YouTube channels. So, you know, it makes me feel good about myself, and, you know, kind of gets me through the day. So I've got that going for me. So as always, we'll be here for the next hour. And then immediately after that, if you are a Patreon member, Frank, the hardest working man in show business, will send out a link to you so that we can continue our discussion. But with our Patreon members, you can actually call in. You can call into a secret line, the Crime Talk call-in number, and you and I can have a conversation. It's interesting because some people are really shy about calling in, and it seems like we get a couple people that call in every week, which is great. We'll talk to them. Frankly, I think it's super interesting for me to get to talk to subscribers. Like, what are you interested in? Tell me what your thoughts are on this particular case. You know, let me know if I'm missing something. Am I, you know, wrong? You know, I mean, one of the things we try to admit here is we base our decisions and our analysis based upon the facts that are known and the law. The law pretty much stays the same. All right. The facts are what is going to change. That's what most cases turn upon. You know, who can find the better witness, who can find the best fact. Those kinds of things are usually what matters when a case goes to ultimately trial. It doesn't, you know, the law is what it is. Everybody knows that. Whether you're a prosecutor, whether you're a defense attorney and you're the defendant, you have to consider the law. You can't get up there and say, Be damned with the law. I don't care. I'm going forward. No, the law is what matters. That's what you can argue. Otherwise, you'll be shut down super, super fast. So, as always, it looks like we have a MyFlock 2.0, a super sticker. Thank you very much. Is that new thing, Frank? Super stickers? I'm not sure how that works. Somebody's always adding something. You can also do super chats. Absolutely not necessary. But sometimes when things get going, the questions and comments start scrolling by rather quickly. And sometimes it is much easier with a super chat because it does highlight it, and I can hit the little button at the top and go back to it. And so let's do that. So let's get started. What I said going in is that there's some new information just posted this afternoon in the old Idaho website. But in the case of the people of the great state of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell, in case number 22-20-0755, a notice of hearing. That's right. The court has set 2 hearing dates, one on October 29th to discuss and for argument and hopefully for rulings on the motion to dismiss. And that will also be a general motions hearing, and that will be before the Honorable Stephen Boyce, who is hearing the case as it relates to Chad Daybell. Nothing has been set yet as it relates to Letecia. However, the court, somewhat obvious here, did not set it out. Did not set the motion for change of venue on the same date. He set that out to November 24th at 9 a.m. Why would you think he would do that? My guess is so that he can have all parties, both the Daybell and the Vallow people there for the motion for change of venue. It's presumably the motion for joinder will be heard on those general date of October 29th for the motion hearing. Now, that's when I told you things are going to get interesting. All right. The interesting thing about motions is by that time, the prosecution and defense have had enough time to go through the discovery, and they have had enough time to, research, evaluate, kind of process what they need to do, consider tactically what's going to take place. And at that point, they have to file motions. All right. The motions hearing, you have a ethical obligation to file motions. You also, if they exist, you have to have a good faith basis for it. All right. I'm a firm believer. Yes, you have to file a lot of what, is referred to as boilerplate motions, preserve everything, give me everything. You have to do that, because if you don't ask for it, and then you say, hey, I didn't know about this, judge, they always say, well, did you have it? Did you ask for it? But when it comes to other motions, all right, now there shouldn't be any motions to dismiss because we're not aware of any statements made to the police by either Chad Daybell or Letecia. And then and only then would you be able to file a motion to suppress if there were in fact statements, but they had to be made in custody. All right. A lot of people get this all kind of wrapped around the angle. If I have to answer this question sometimes multiple times a week, man, I was arrested and they didn't read me my Miranda rights. I'm like, okay, they arrested you because they came and get you on a warrant. Did anybody ask you any questions? No. Guess what? They don't have to read you your Miranda rights. You only have to be advised of your Miranda rights if you are A, in custody, or B, it's an and you're being interrogated where they're attempting to elicit incriminating responses. So if you're not in custody, not necessarily a situation where there'll be a motion to suppress. The detective could invite you to an interview room and say, hey, just want to chat with you. Just want to let you know you're not under arrest. You're free to leave at any time. don't really need to give a Miranda advisement at that particular time. Most detectives would, just in case they say something where somebody's going to be say something possibly incriminating, then they need to do that. So the motions are that's the good stuff, because we're going to be able to start to see what evidence is out there that the defense doesn't want to come in. They will file what they refer to as motions in limine, saying, Judge, don't allow this statement in or this particular piece of evidence in because basically it's so unfair. All right. As we've talked about before, evidence just doesn't come in. It has to be relevant. What's relevant? Does it go to prove or disprove an element of the offense charged? So generally, if it doesn't go to prove one of those elements, that on or about this date, Chad and Lori Vallow in the state of Idaho delayed the hindrance of the discovery of these remains on their property. If it doesn't go to prove one of those elements, it's not relevant normally under Rule 401. And then you have to consider, well, even if it's, and this is for motions in limine come in, is it so, although relevant, it's more prejudicial than probative to the fact finder, to the jury. So if its probative value is not outweighed by its prejudicial effect, it comes in. But if it comes in, you have to do a 403 analysis as well, which is basically it's so bad it could really prejudice the defendants and result in an unfair trial because it is so bad. Now, that's tough to get overturned, but it does in fact happen. You know, it's the kind of thing where you do a homicide case and you got 50 photos of the autopsy or 50 photos of the crime scene. Judges say, hey, prosecutor, you have a right to show some of those photos, and I'm going to give you 5 to do it in. So you better pick your best 5, because after that, it's cumulative and it's prejudicial. So those are the kind of motions that will come in motions in limine. If there's missing discovery and, you know, the defense attorneys have said, hey, Mr. Prosecutor, I need these things that are referenced. Why don't I have them yet? And the prosecutor hasn't turned them over yet. Then the defendants will go to the court and say, hey, Judge, we've asked nicely, please make them give us this information if they have it, and whether it's in their care, custody, and control, which doesn't necessarily mean it's only in their office. It's to the agencies that are reporting directly to them, where they need to go and try and find it as well. So, like I said, I think the motions issues are going to be super interesting. It's going to help us really flush out what let's see. Oh, there's another motion that was filed here. Oh man, this is just news is breaking all today, and I've been a little busy running around. I was out visiting a client at the jail. Oh, look at this. Wow. Okay. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. This was just filed and just made its way up. Notice of non-objection regarding motion from joinder. This is a motion filed in the people of the state of Idaho versus Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Noreen Daybell, in case 22-20-0838. Comes now. The defendant, Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Daybell, and provide notice that she does not object to the motion for joinder filed by the plaintiff on or about September 1 of 2020. Well, now, isn't that interesting? So we just saw this, and I don't think I've seen anything newsworthy about this. So maybe little old Crime Talk has just completely broken this story. This was only filed yesterday, but just put up, it looks like today. So what does that mean? I guess subject to the court's approval, Lori Bell is saying, hey, let's have a trial with Chad Daybell. I figured that would pretty much happen. over objection. I kind of would have thought that Mr. Means would have objected and come up with something for the record. But as you may recall, Mr. Pryor objected on behalf of Lori or on behalf of Chad Daybell because it would draw too much media attention. Which, like I said, there was nothing based in fact or law that would warrant that motion being granted. And now Lord Vallow is in fact doing that. Hey, Frank, is there a way that I can pull that up here on this and show it? I thought there was a way I could do it right here. No? Guess not. All right. So I'm going to try to see if I can send this. Because, yeah, it was kind of, yeah, the notice of trial settings, and then it was the motion for civilian clothing, because you have to file that motion to get your client to be able to dress out in civilian clothes. And so that was, kind of a perfunctory motion. And then, like I said, notice of non-objection regarding joinder. Interesting. Why is that so interesting to me? Because obviously we've got now Chad Daybell saying we object to a joint trial. And we have Lori Vallow saying we want to be in a joint trial. Isn't that interesting, ladies and gentlemen? Maybe, perhaps, the what's the word I'm looking for? The lovey-doveyness may be coming off, so to speak. Maybe there's, it was a pretty weak motion as it relates to keeping it on behalf of Daybell to keep it out. And so the fact that they are, objecting, kind of perfunctory, at least in a way. And then Vallow says, let's have a joint trial. That's very, very interesting to me. Obviously, the prosecutor wants that. And so it's going to be interesting motions hearing as well when that motion regarding joinder is argued in late October now. What is going to happen? They'll both be in the same courtroom, unless all the social distancing stuff is there, but they have a right to be in there for the motions hearing. And he's saying, no, I don't want to be with her. So that's when possibly the gloves are really going to come off, where he's saying, he's got to, we're just trying to play from experience here. He has a much better opportunity if he's going to be pointing fingers at her and saying, man, I didn't know what kind of woman I was getting involved with and all the baggage and drama that came with it. If she's not sitting at the same table or very close to him in a courtroom. If I was Daybell's attorney, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want a joint trial with her. I'd want to be able to blame her and her brother all day long. And then you have Vallow saying, no, we want to be together. And her position is, well, we're in this together. We should probably walk free together or go down hard and go to prison together. But that's what going to be interesting. Someone writes here, if you had a lawyer like Mark Means, wouldn't you want Chad's lawyer at the table with you? Yeah. It's clear. And I know some people don't like Mr. Pryor, but I'm telling you, one experienced criminal defense attorney to all of you, Pryor did a very good job at that preliminary hearing. It went for roughly 6 hours. Yes, the case didn't going to go away. I told you it wasn't going to go away, but he made some inroads at it. And every time Means gets up and says something, I literally am just like, oh my gosh, what is he going to say now? What is he going to say now? He does not do primarily criminal defense according to his own, website. for his office. So this is not his forte, dealing with, cases like this. So look, Frank was able to put that up. And as you can see, he basically is saying, we don't object to joinder. Now, ultimately, it's up to the judge. And that's why I remember, didn't I just say at the start of the show? This is how you find out when a case is going to get good. It's the motions hearing. Everyone is, at that point, the legal maneuvering starts. That's when it gets good. Let's see here. Why does Lori stay with her lawyer? I don't know. He paid him. Maybe she feels comfortable with him. I didn't think that. I was getting a warm, fuzzy feeling at the bond reduction hearing that he conducted about, the allegations of, we need a new bond reduction hearing because we think the jail, listened to some of our conversations. No, that's not a basis for it. And everybody would know that that's in fact the case. Terry Dalton, thank you. Super chat. Lori wants to play like she's Chad's victim, but Chad is really hers. Hey, I have said this before. Chad, he is the safest guy in Idaho right now because the fact that he is in custody, because everyone around Lori Vallow seems to wind up deceased. I mean, it could just be a coincidence, but that's just the way it is. So anyway, there you have it. Once again, Tuesday night, Crime Talk live edition breaks more news as it relates to information, as it relates to, hold on one second here, as it relates to Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. Particularly, Chad is objecting to a joint trial, and Lori Vallow, attorney, filed something late yesterday, and it went up today. No objection to motion for joinder. Wow. It's going to get good, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to get good. Like I said, don't you wish those two could talk for just a little bit? I mean, I'm sure their attorneys are talking, but, clearly Chad Daybell has the much more skilled attorney in this particular case. And I'm sure his defense is going to be, who knew what the hell this guy was getting into? Like, hey, he's probably going to say, this woman, she rocked my world. It was, I had been married a long time, midlife crisis, whatever. I meet her. She's fun. She's exciting, blah, blah, blah. And next thing happened. And then my wife dies. So, oh my gosh, I'm distraught. I go and marry her. It was all her idea. I had no idea that her kids were gone. This was all kind of, pre-me, or at least if times overlapped, I had nothing to do with it. And I wasn't home all the time. So I don't know when she brought these deceased remains, the remains of her deceased children, onto my property. I mean, that's what I would be arguing if I was Chad Daybell's attorney, right? I don't know. Officer, when were those remains put on that property? Well, we haven't been able to determine that. Well, if you don't know, how do you expect my client to know when they got there, right? Now, Vallow has a much bigger problem. And her bigger problem is, and this is why, when motion for joinders are argued, one of the things you say is we have inconsistent defenses. I think at this point, we're going to have Pryor getting up and saying, we have an inconsistent defense. We intend to throw her under the proverbial bus and, claim ignorance and innocence as it relates to that. Vallow has a much bigger problem because those are her kids. And let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever had children, yes, there are days that you wanted to, and, I'm sure somebody will be upset, but let's face it, if you ever had children, some days you just wanted to strangle them, right? Like, oh my gosh, will you just listen? And of course you would never do that because you love your kids. And if they were gone, you would not sleep unless and until you knew everybody in the world was looking for those kids. You wouldn't be acting nonchalant Like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I don't need to go search for the kids. Well, why do you want to not search for the kids? Because they know that they're deceased. They know that there's nowhere to go look. No matter where they go look, they're never going to find them. It's kind of a consciousness of guilt. All right. So rule of thumb, if your spouse is missing and you may have had something to do with it, at least you could try to look like you're curious and interested in trying to find them. Otherwise, people start pointing the finger at you rather quickly. Now, of course, I'm sure I'm probably just upset somebody, and you should never talk about that. It was said in jest. All right. So try not to get upset. I don't need all my email bombarded and my text messages of how dare you, Scott, you were promoting, strangling your children. No, I wasn't. But let's face it, if you ever had kids, some days you're like, oh my gosh, please take them away. And then of course they get older, and then you love them and you're super proud of them. And you'd never anything wrong. If they went missing, you would drop everything and you would go there until you found them. So there you go. All right, let's move on to different topics. Just real quick question. Scott, can you talk about the Golden Gate Killer sometime in the future? Assuming we're talking about the guy that was just sentenced to multiple life sentences, who showed up in his wheelchair and then he was just fine. Yeah. He's going to prison for the rest of his life, and he'll probably, live, longer than everybody that prosecuted him, because sometimes that's the way fate turns out. But yeah, he's going to die in prison where he belongs. He's a killer. He, does terrible things to people, and that's why he needs to go to prison. Let's see. Teresa, this is jumping back to the questions regarding Lori and Chad Battle. So would this eliminate our attorney as a conflict of interest? No, not necessarily. No, because he's apparently assuming he has consulted with his client saying this is what we're doing and it's a tactical reason. And hopefully for him, he has documented that thoroughly in his file with a confirming memo to the file, or even better yet, a confirming letter to the client saying we have filed a motion for joinder and this is why we are doing this for tactical reasons. You're on board with that. So why would you do that? Why do attorneys do those things? Well, because the practice of law has come very similar to the practice of medicine. You have to document everything. And you have to do that so that if things don't go that well for Lori Vallow at trial, and she loses all her appeals, her post-conviction relief motions will say that they made, her attorney was ineffective and should never have done a joinder in the case. So that's what attorneys have to do, and hopefully he's doing that, because I think is one thing we've realized from Miss Vallow is that it's quite possible that she would turn on just about anyone if it was convenient for her. We'll just have to see. But like I said, big news. We broke it here. No objection to motion to joinder. And we have motions hearing set now on October 29th and November 24th. So like I said, motions, that's where things get good, ladies and gentlemen. All right, quick break. Quick recess here that we have to take. We've talked about it. Our regular people, I'm sure, are super say, oh, here it comes, can probably repeat it with me. But yes, please go to crimetalksearch.com and sign up for a background subscription search service. You'll be glad that you did. I'm telling you, we use background searches here in a law firm on a daily basis. All right. And you couldn't practice law without it. Every witness has a story. Some have nothing in their background. Other witnesses have a huge history, usually criminal history. But you have to go find it. It doesn't just show up on your front doorstep and the district attorney doesn't turn it over, because they don't have to. You have to go dig up the work. Those are the kinds of things that change. Remember we talked about facts? Oh, look, do you know that your star witness, Mr. Prosecutor, has 6, felony convictions and all these other bad things that make him look like a bad person that I'll be able to get in? Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Oh, you want to give my guy a new offer? Sure. Those are the facts we're talking about. So when you go to crimetalksearch.com, you sign up, you can search anonymously anyone you want here in the United States, and literally millions and millions of records are searched for that particular person. And in that report, you get information related any cell phones associated with that person, email addresses, social media. Wouldn't you like to know, ladies and gentlemen, all the different social media accounts somebody has? Well, you find that out in these reports. You get criminal history background checks. You get civil property records, marital records, judgments, bankruptcies. Those are all the things that you want. We've had so many people respond back and say, Scott, I signed up for it. I was even a little skeptical at first, but I signed up for it. And I found out my future business partner had fraud in their history. Those are the kind of things you want to know when you're making decisions. You're dating somebody, you don't know anything about him, you met him online. Guess what? Do a background search. It's more comprehensive than just a good old-fashioned Google search. Go to crimetalksearch.com. You will not be disappointed. I'm telling you, we use this every day ourselves. And I wouldn't tell you about it if I didn't use it myself and if I didn't think it was a good product. All right, back to our questions here. Let's just take a couple quick looks here. Scott, do attorneys put any stock in psychics? Do you want the long answer or the quick answer? The quick answer, no, not at all. Not going to be admissible in court. No way of proving anything. It's not coming in. Okay. And I can tell you, I was trying to be realistic once. So I said, okay, fine. I'll listen to this psychic. The psychic was like, oh, Scott, everything's great. This is fabulous. Oh my gosh, life is really going to be going great for you. I really see these things, just great. Everything I wanted to hear. A week later, I found out that I had an employee that was stealing money from me. So apparently the psychic didn't pick that one up. So color me skeptical, and when the psychics come around and say, well, I see the remains in an open space. I don't know. Do I think that there are some people that have that ability to see? Probably they do. I just have never run into them. And if they were psychic, wouldn't they be a trillionaire, whatever, because they know when everything bad was going to happen? I don't know. Color me skeptic. Oh, I just don't know. I'm a firm believer in, I want to be able to prove it. Show me what you got. People can say anything they want, but unless you can back it up with real facts, and even then, I'm going to question those facts because you can't, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. You have to be able to see who created the statistics. Bottom line. Quick question here from Jane Ray. Scott, does Scott Peterson have any more appeals or any other kind of relief left to ask for? Will he ever get out? I was so much more comfortable when he was on death row. Well, the California Supreme Court, for those who do not know, reversed Scott Peterson's death sentence as it relates to his wife, Letecia, and their unborn child that they found floating in the water. I think it was San Francisco Bay. And he obviously went to trial, lost. Mark Garagos was his trial counsel. He's gone through appeals. He's gone through ineffective assistance. And they had a litany of questions as it related to the questions being issues for error to the California Supreme Court. And they said that there was error as it related to a juror in that particular case. Jurors, multiple jurors, plural. And we talked about this in a previous video, but we can go over it again rather quickly. So when you have a death penalty case, the jury has to be death qualified. And it seems kind of odd that when you're doing a death penalty case, you're talking to the jury about the penalty phase, even though you haven't even discussed whether your client is guilty or not. And I've seen cases where people were tried, they're going to death and they're found not guilty. Like, oh, okay. That's huge, right? But you have to have a jury that's death qualified. And death qualified basically means is that you have to be able to impose the death penalty if all the aggravating factors and mitigating factors are considered, and they believe that the jury comes back unanimously as it relates to imposing the death penalty. And so if you got up and said, if you're a potential juror and they say, hey, this is a death penalty case, could you impose the death penalty? And the juror says, I could never impose the death penalty ever. I believe that it's inhumane, barbaric, goes against all my religious tenets. I cannot take a life. Guess what? That person is going to be thrown off the jury. And if you're a potential juror and that juror was asked, Mr. Juror, Mrs. Juror, can you consider the death penalty? Oh, yeah. I've been waiting all my life to get on this jury. And one thing I'm only glad about is I'm not concerned about the 3 weeks I'm going to take from my job without pay. I just always want to be on a death penalty jury. Let's do this thing. That guy or girl, woman is going to be a juror in that case. But when you get somebody on the jury that is asked the question, could you consider the death penalty if everything was said and done? And then the juror says, well, I think I could consider I'm not a big proponent of it. It would have to be the right facts, but I could follow the law because I know I have to follow the judge's law, even if I don't like it. So I could probably impose it if the right facts were there. Well, in the Scott Peterson case, those jurors were kicked out. The judge was like, you know what? I don't need wishy-washy. I need death jurors on this panel. And we're not going to have any wishy-washy, maybe I could do it kind of stuff. We need decisive people. Well, the California Supreme Court said, hey, those people that said they would consider it, they should have been qualified as jurors. And so therefore, they should not have been excused. And obviously, if they were excused, then they shouldn't have been dismissed as a juror, and they could have possibly been on the jury and deliberated, and maybe it would have affected the outcome of the case. So the California Supreme Court didn't say that it tainted the entire proceeding, just the death penalty phase of it. So the prosecutors in the Peterson case have been given basically an option by the judge saying, hey, we're vacating, by the California Supreme Court, we're vacating his death penalty. You all decide, and I don't remember what date they said or if it's even been, the mandate has gone back yet. Because normally when the Supreme Court does it, the losing side can file a motion to reconsider, and it's usually denied. And then what they call the mandate is the order from the court saying go back and the trial must be redone in a certain amount of time. And in this particular case, the prosecutor has to decide, we got this guy in prison for the rest of his life. Are we really going to try and get all these people from this case, 16 years ago, 17 years ago, maybe? Try to bring in those witnesses, bring in the family, relive everything. A lot of that will probably the prosecutor will defer to the family if that's what they want to do. They may do it. I don't know. It just really is up to the DA. They may just say, you know what? And, who knows what the hell goes on in California? I mean, I remember as a kid, California used to be like the coolest place because before anything was cool anywhere else, it was already cool in California. I spent, a summer out there working for an uncle, and I just thought it was the coolest place ever. My daughter went to college out there, out in Orange County at a great school called Chapman University in the city of Orange. Great school. But everything that I just see comes out of California these days, I just don't get it. Who knows what the hell is coming out of California these days? Who knows what the prosecutors will be up there? Hell, for all we know, the prosecutor could be like, let's just release the guy. Hasn't he suffered enough? Who knows what the hell goes on in California? But it seems like everybody from California is moving to Colorado. I just hope you all don't mess it up as bad as you messed up the state of California. Bottom line, I mean, seriously, it is like, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Let's see. I don't know her. I just watched stuff for Tylee JJ. Hold on. See what happens. It's hard to watch these things when they start scrolling by really, really fast. So anyway, I hope that answers the question as it relates to Scott Peterson. Who knows what they're going to do in California? Like I said, for all I know, they'd be apologizing to him, saying, poor thing. I am a Californian, but don't live there now. Good. Angelina ETF. Who knows what goes on in California? I mean, seriously, it is just, I mean, I personally blame it on, they have a full-time state legislature out there. And so they're basically in office all the time. And most legislators have limited stuff. Why? Because it's not a full-time job. You don't need people passing laws all the time, because you're going to come up with a bunch of crazy crap going on. At least if they're only in session, for a short time during a part of the year or every other year. Some states, I think Texas, Montana come to mind. They only meet every other year, which is good because you have that cooling off period and you figure what's really important. What may seem like really important, on that particular day may not be that important, 6 months down the road. But in the meantime, they pass these laws, a bunch of knee-jerk reactions, and they never think of the, kind of collateral consequences and costs of this stuff. So, but that goes for legislators anywhere. I think that's one of the reasons why California is just so screwed up. And, who could possibly, even if you live out there, keep up with what they're doing at the Capitol on a daily basis? Because they just keep messing that stuff up all the time. Sylvia, thank you. Just because you're awesome and come up with the best dumb criminal contestants of the day. Well, thank you, Sylvia. And that's funny because we get feedback. People will give us feedback on anything that we say. I think I said the Breonna Taylor, that was unfortunate. Scott, that was not unfortunate. That was a killing. I agree. And we'll talk about the Breonna Taylor case in just a minute. But the dumb criminal, you all like it. That's good. I appreciate that. But somebody says, I really wish you would stop the dumb criminal contestant of the day. These poor people. Ladies and gentlemen, I get it. But if I didn't call it the dumb criminal contestant of the day, I could talk about the crazy contestant of the day. Whatever you want to call it, it doesn't change the facts. Yes, I get it. A lot of the people that are involved in the dumb criminal contestant of the day have engaged in, let's say, excesses as it relates to adult alcoholic beverages, or excesses as it relates to Schedule II controlled substances, like the lady today that was eating the horse mane because it looked like or tasted like Laffy Taffy. I'm going to go on a bet there. Yes, she admitted to methamphetamine, but I'm going to bet that there was probably a cocktail of illegal controlled Schedule II substances. So I don't take lightly the fact that these people are in these serious situations. Okay. I've represented people in these serious situations. But ladies and gentlemen, in this business, and even if you just watch Crime Talk on a daily basis, and we're not trying to bring people down, but if you were watching Crime Talk, like yesterday, we talked about the disturbing cases, right? You're just like, oh my gosh. So if you can't occasionally laugh at some of the stuff that goes on in the world, because there's so much bad stuff, ladies and gentlemen, you would literally lose your mind. Okay. I've been doing criminal defense for 25 years. A lot of people they do a little criminal defense and they get out of it. They can't, for lack of a better term, a lot of people just can't handle it. You're always dealing with misery and despair. People's lives are on the line, and not figuratively, but their careers, their families, usually because of mistakes. And most of our clients, it's sex, drugs, and alcohol. That's what criminal defense primarily revolves around. And so, like I said, I'm not making light of it, but some of this stuff is funny, and you have to take it at that and for what it is. Yes, I hope these people, if they're criminals, they get the help they need, but it doesn't stop the fact that these are the facts. All right. And the facts are the facts. And just because it's going to make somebody, they get their mug, it's going to make them feel bad they were dumb criminal contestant of the day. Who knows? Maybe it'll make their day and say, well, at least I got. Like I said, if you can't laugh about it, you will probably cry. And I've had lots of people comment, particularly people that are, like ER nurses and ER doctors, and say, if you were to hear some of the conversations in an emergency room or, the public defender's office or a criminal defense law firm, a lot of people would probably be shocked. But that's sometimes, like I said, unfortunately, you say things that to the rest of the world, when you're among colleagues like that, they would probably be a little dark. But that's the way it is, because if anyone knows anybody in the criminal defense world, I can tell you in the criminal defense community here in the Denver metropolitan area, we lose an attorney to suicide probably once a year, every year and a half, because I think, people, they take this stuff seriously. They're defending people. Their lives are dependent upon it. I know when I was a young attorney, I used to just like, oh my gosh, I can't sleep. My client's military career is on the line. It's all up to me. And, you'd sleep. It was just, you would worry yourself sick about it. And then you realize, and, usually have a mentor tell you, like, man, you got to let it go. You cannot worry about it. You have to do your best. You'll do everything you can as a professional to help your client. But at the end of the day, guess what? You, as the attorney, are not the one that has created the facts that have brought us all together, right? Think about it. I wasn't there. If I was there when this incident took place, I wouldn't be able to be the attorney. I'd be a witness. So I wasn't there. All your witnesses, they were maybe there, so they're not going to represent them, but I do the best that I can with the information that I have. And I'm telling you, you just have to do your best, but you have to be able to turn it off. Now, the question is, how do you turn it off? You can be sitting there thinking you're very focused, and all of a sudden, you're out to dinner with, your family, or take the lovely Miss Kristen out to dinner, and something you hear or see something that reminds you of a case, and suddenly you're off in Never Never Land. And as I've been told, unfortunately, hello, although you're here, you're not here, because you are off thinking about, other cases and things. And it's so anyway, so hopefully that explains, why we do the dumb criminal contestant of the day. I know that some people don't like it. Some people don't like the name, but guess what? Even if I change the name, we'd still do it. And we're not making fun of people. Like I said, I didn't create the facts. They did. Bottom line. So we're just simply reporting those as they come about. All right. Yes, I agree. If you do not laugh, sometimes you will cry. And it's so weird, but you have to be able to turn it off. If you're in any kind of, high pressure stuff, you have to be able to turn it off. I had a mentor tell me that years ago. My drive home, I used to take work home with me all the time. now, unless I absolutely have to, I don't do it. I work at the office. I go home. That's my sanctuary decompress time. You stay at work till you get done what you need to do. Then you go home. That's it. It's just that dumb means unable to hear or speak. Well, I think that's one definition one could possibly come up with. I never thought that we were somehow, let's see, make dumb or unheard silence, simplify or reduce the intellectual content of someone so as to make it accessible to a larger number of people. Intellectual conduct, dumb it down, right? Temporarily unable or unwilling to speak. But it also means to be not smart. So we're going to have to disagree on that one. Stupid, a dumb question, right? It's not just because they can't speak. I think most people can tell by what our contestants have said that they are neither deaf nor incapable of being able to speak. Let's see here. Slam RN. Let's see here. Love farm school 35 years ago. Anti-chlorotic effect. Can't see, can't pee, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, let's see here. There was something else. Age 3 and 10. Yeah, Cheryl says they have a case, I guess, there in Arkansas this morning. Second incident was 2 children hit by a truck at 4 a.m. also on the highway, ages 3 and 10. What is the war on children? I don't know. I think as parents, you have one job, obviously, well, 2 jobs, make them productive members of the community, but you have to protect them from all the bad things around them. Not so much that they have, they're completely naive when they get there. But yeah. Let's see here. Samantha, she likes the dumb criminal. She looks forward to it. Question, do you ever get nervous before a trial? Yes, Samantha, we do. It's funny. Even if you've done trial a lot of times, there's always that, what's the word I'm looking for? Excitement. It's not a bad nervous, like, oh my gosh, I can't get up here. I needed. It's that excitement, like, all right, game is on. You prepare, and it's like, all right, bring in the jury. And it's like, okay, this is getting real all of a sudden. And, right before you get up and you start to do voir dire, that's really when it kind of gets in. But once you get up there talking, it's like, this is what I do. This is fun. Let's do this. Next question, is Kyle Rittenhouse going to walk? In my opinion, I don't think he's going to walk at all. We did analysis of this when this case first came out. I think there's 2 incidents, one where he's alleged to have turned around and fired somewhat randomly into a crowd of people. I think that's reckless, wrong. The one where he's assaulted while on the ground, where the guy comes up and kicks him, and the other guy has a gun, and the other guy, he's using a skateboard to try and whack him. I think that's self-defense right there. You got people hurling deadly weapons, and they have deadly weapons at you. I think the first case is much more difficult for self-defense, but he's got good attorneys. They've raised a lot of money. You can do a lot of research, hire a lot of investigators, and come up with lots of new facts when that comes about. So I don't think he's going to walk. I think he's going to get some punishment. Understand the DAs in these particular cases, they're in a awkward situation. Yes, their job is to do justice and only file cases if they think they can prove it. But let's face it, DAs are politicians, at least the elected one is. And most little DAs would love to be the elected DA someday. They just don't have the stomach for politics. And if you got the stomach for politics, you think you have a problem throwing, a kid away so he doesn't, if he walks, that the city doesn't burn? You think those decisions aren't made every day, ladies and gentlemen, by politicians? Of course they are. You think or I've had DAs tell me, hey, man, got a dead body. Someone's got to go to prison. And guess what? We've decided it's your client. They do that. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. Ann Wilson, we didn't really get to talk about why did I just have a brain freeze? Breonna Taylor. Sorry. Huge brain freeze there. Yes, under Kentucky law, you have a right to protect yourself. That goes for everybody involved. Certainly in your house, most jurisdictions, they have what we call it here is make my day. But, generally when people come into your house and you believe they're there uninvited and you think they're there to commit a crime, you shoot them. That's the way the law is in Colorado. Now, don't do that until you know what the law is exactly in your jurisdiction. But you can do that. We've had cases where there's a case up in Boulder that comes to mind where a young woman was intoxicated coming back from a party. She went into the wrong house. The homeowner didn't know that she was a drunk college kid. He shot her in the hip. She was charged for criminal trespass. Homeowner, nothing wrong. You have a right to defend yourself. But if you are lawfully there, then somebody shoots at you, you can shoot back at them. I mean, that's just good old fashioned criminal law, right? You can defend yourself if somebody puts you in fear of death or serious bodily injury. Now, it has to be a real threat. You can't just have somebody say, man, I'm going to kick your ass. And then you should turn around and shoot somebody. That's not really plausible. I mean, maybe if the guy's a boxer or something, but even then you gotta wonder. But the family and like I said, the family for Breonna Taylor, they obviously would want to have their daughter Breonna Taylor. They can't have their daughter Breonna Taylor, so the only thing that the law allows for in this particular case is for money. And the city of Louisville, Kentucky, just paid $12 million to the family to resolve the civil side of that. Now, of course, the officers involved won't pay a penny of that. The police department usually doesn't pay a penny for that. And I'm not going to say I know exactly which pot of money it came out of in Louisville, but usually it's the city. And usually the city council is the one that has to approve those settlements. So $12 million, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of money. But if that was your child, would that be enough? I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I think I'd rather have my child back. Is that enough that's going to punish the city? $12 million? The city's not going to pay for it. Let's get real. The citizens of Louisville are going to pay for it in the form of taxes, right? You have that pot of money, comes from taxes. If it's short in that pot of money, they're going to go raise somebody else's taxes. The city doesn't pay for it. Okay. Insurance will pay for it through the city as well. But guess what? The insurance for those premiums is going to go up. A lot of cities self-insure, and they got to pay the money. So, it's, I don't know. If I could explain it all, ladies and gentlemen, do you think I'd be sitting here on a Tuesday night trying to explain the law to everybody? I'd have all the answers for sure, but I don't. But you would think maybe the taxpayers would either get tired of it and say, hey, we need to make some changes, or maybe we need to get rid of the bad cops that are costing us $12 million, not to mention the, killing people. And, there's a lot of stuff floating around. Someone tried to send some stuff today about anonymous reports and information. Yeah, we don't deal with anonymous stuff. Let's deal with facts that have been, verified, so to speak. Leaked to some anonymous or to some, website somewhere along the way. Color me skeptical. If people had the guts to release it, then just come out and use your name. Don't, every time I've ever talked to the press or the clients we were out there saying, here it is. We weren't doing anonymous crap. If you've got the goods, you think it's newsworthy, then put your money where your mouth is and come out there and, release the information and tell you how you got it. Don't hide behind the cloak of anonymous. That's just telling me either A, you're not sure of its validity, or what you're doing is probably illegal and you don't think you're going to get in trouble. Well, if it's not worth getting in trouble for, then what are you doing? At least like Edward Snowden, the guy that basically let everybody know that they were being spied on by the federal government, whether you agree with what he did or not, or the way he went about it, at least he had the guts to come forward and say, I did it. And oh, by the way, the United States government is listening and saving every one of your calls out there in complete violation of the Fourth Amendment, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, we'll see. Let's see. Scott, do you think the postmaster will see any charges? Christine, I'm not really sure what question you're referring to. The postmaster. I'm not sure. Is that about the mailing stuff? I don't know. Let's see. Linda, when you live in Louisville, and if raising taxes stops riots so businesses aren't boarded up, give me some bourbon before I have to pay part of that. Well, they do have a lot of bourbon in Louisville, and I went to the Kentucky Derby there, not this last year, but the year before last. It was fun. Let's see here. Jenneth. Scott, my family is filled with firefighters, so I understand about their jokes. I see and hope that someone thinking about doing drugs, etc., will remember how messed up their lives went and stay away. I totally agree. I get asked all the time, Scott, you don't drink. No, I don't drink. People, of course, like, oh, you don't drink? Yeah, I just don't drink. I've got a brother who's a raging alcoholic. I've done criminal defense for 25 years, and I have seen how it destroys people's lives. Drugs. I've never had a client say, man, I only wish I'd done more drugs. Never had that. And I'm no teetotaler. I assure you of that. But I'm just telling you, I'm a firm believer of being able to do what you want. But, once you start harming other people, breaking in and stealing other people's stuff, guess what? Same type, you can do what you want, but I just don't want to have to pay for it. I think a lot of people's thoughts are about it. Like, hey, you want to go do drugs? Fine. But don't come to me and say, ooh, I really messed up my life. Now what are you going to do about it? Well, it's not like everybody says, hey, you should go do drugs. It's really good for you. It's going to be great. Look at all the success stories about people who use drugs and alcohol to excess. I can't find a single one. So, same thing. Jacqueline Watts from Scotland. Scotland. Wow. Very cool. What's your opinion of Julian Assange? Well, the founder, I don't know if he's the founder, but he was the head of WikiLeaks. I'm a firm believer that there should be very few things in the government that are done under the cloak of secrecy. Yes, national defense, things like that. But, we have a constitution, and I'm not aware of, we really need to keep this secret, for national security reasons. I don't see that exception in the Constitution. I'm a firm believer. I think, if the government's doing it, we should be able to see it. I think, all these video cameras these days they're so easy to put in. We should have them in literally every government office. So we could literally sit there and say, what does that person do? I've been watching this person all day and they've been watching YouTube all day. What do they do? I love it when people tell me Inverted Earth. Addiction is psychological, not law-based, so you don't have a full understanding, apparently. Well, I have been dealing with lots of people with addictions over many, many years of practicing law. So I think I do have a pretty good understanding that there is a lot of psychological reasons why people engage in drug use. It may not be because they think, hey, this is going to be really good. A lot of them have undiagnosed mental health issues, which make them self-medicate either through drugs or alcohol. So yeah, it's not just, oh, you need to stop drinking. Don't do that. I mean, it's not my thing. Even, when I was young, I mean, you drank in high school, you drank in college. It made me feel bad. I didn't like the feeling about it. And, I got to get up and I got to go. Particularly when I was really, younger, I was like, man, I got to go. I just don't have time to feel like crap in the morning. So I don't know. It's just, it's a personal thing. I'm not telling people they should or shouldn't do it. I'm just telling you, I think it's generally, if you drink to excess or you use drugs to excess, it's going to be a bad thing in the long run. You may not think so at the time. You may, if somebody does one thing once or twice, is that going to completely ruin their life? Unlikely. But if you do it every day, it's going to get really bad. So anyway, all right, there is our hour, just a little over that, I guess. I want to thank everybody for watching, tuning in. I know it's amazing how quickly it goes by. I don't know if it goes by quickly for you. It literally seems like it goes by so fast for me here. So we're going to take a brief break and then we'll resume on our Patreon page. And so if you haven't become a Patreon, still time to do that. And Frank will send out a link to you and we will continue the conversation and you'll be able to call in. So talk to me, call me. There's your time to answer questions. Patreon. Where else can you get to ask a lawyer questions and it only costs as little as $5 to be a Patreon member? Think about it. So we'll talk about anything you want to talk about as well as anything I think is interesting and we will go from there. So thanks for watching. Have a wonderful night and we will see you next time on Crime Talk and hopefully you'll follow us over to Patreon.